Working Hands Radio.
I'm just a hard-working man, taking it day by day, doing everything I can, trying to chase my blues around. You need to clear your
And good evening. Welcome to Working Hands Radio. This is Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, and week number 17, ready to go. All right, so that is we're on your road, Pennsylvania, and they bring us in every week with a little homegrown music there, a little blues. So hope you guys had a great 4th of July, and tonight we are broadcasting for the first time on our Working Hands Radio page, and there's a couple reasons for that. Trying to clean up a little bit the Tool and Die Guy page, so we're more dedicated to this broadcast on this page, and I also noticed that people are on my statistics are searching for Working Hands Radio, and the first thing that comes up is that Facebook page, so this is where we belong. So again, I'm Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy. It's Tuesday, July 10th, 2018, Dateline, Erie, Pennsylvania, and you're listening to the only show like it on planet Earth. If you work with your hands and if you build really cool things every day, well, this is where you belong for the next hour. Because here at Working Hands Radio, we speak your language. Your trade, your calls, your program. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. I know a lot of guys are tuning in. We got some good giveaways now, or especially one really good one. Just a few moments, we'll open up the toll-free number and we'll turn on the webcam because if we don't have your calls, this isn't a program. And I say this every week, so bear with me. This isn't a podcast. I get irritated when people say, "Hey, when's your podcast on?" A podcast doesn't have live calls, and that would be much easier to do. I already had the equipment for that, a microphone, right? So what we're doing here is a little more technically involved. It took me about 2 months to set this up to make it actually work right. And so we feature your calls. Without your calls, we don't have a program. I would not do this. This would be boring. Nobody wants to listen to the Tool and Die Guy for an hour. Nobody. So what we're going to do tonight, before we get started, I always ask for a roll call. And I'm monitoring the social media tonight myself. So you need to call. You need to just check in and tell us where you're listening from, and I'll try to do my best to respond. But we always just ask for your name and where you're calling from or listening from. Or, I'll figure out where you're calling from when you finally do call in. So let's see here. Hi, Roger from Louisiana. Awesome. Hey, Judy Kerner Potter. Sister-in-law is on there. Okay, everything sounds good, Heidi says, so we'll just keep moving right along. So we get to our first top story tonight was, I promised, we're going to talk about apprenticeships tonight. But quickly, I thought you guys might get a kick out of this. We broadcast here from Erie, Pennsylvania. Well, what do you know about Erie, Pennsylvania? So, this is Erie, PA in the summer. Not too shabby, right? And this is Erie, PA. Not too shabby. This is the one everybody thinks about when they think about Erie, PA. And that was actual footage. That was actually taken back here in December 25th and 26th. In 30 hours, we got 5 feet of snow. And that's really a picture from Erie, Pennsylvania. And that was quite a few days there. So, we like you to think of this picture here, especially if I'm in the Chamber of Commerce. Maybe not so much this picture. And, one of the things we do once in a while here, the Queen likes to go to the beach once in a while. So we actually went to the beach on Sunday, and we got a cabana, those pop-up ones. She really wanted one, so we got one of those, and kind of cool. Kind of kept the noise of the 3 million kids at the beach, and we got a picture of me at the beach. And that's it. I call that pose the chick magnet, so deal with it. And actually, the towel's on tight because there's nothing on underneath that towel. So that's the way we roll here. So Erie, PA, cool place. So again, welcome. Let's see here. Let's get to a lot of technical stuff here tonight for me to handle, but we'll keep it going as well as we can. So let's talk about apprenticeships, right? I was very lucky, if you've listened to the show at all. I went through a great apprenticeship, and I'm sure the past 40 years or so have mellowed my memories of that. I know I had a good apprenticeship. They took it very seriously, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Once a week somebody says, how come kids don't get into this trade? Well, I got some opinions on that. As you know, I work very hard at not getting into politics here because of one reason, right? You're probably not going to change my mind. I'm probably not going to change your mind, and we just won't do that. But I do have a new hobby, and that's to watch people online fight like cats and dogs, like crazy people over politics, right? It's funny, you spend all this time learning a trade over your life, and all of a sudden, though, without any training, everybody knows everything about politics. So, we won't go there. It comes up once in a while, though, as I've said before. If there's a policy or the politics does play a part in this trade. I mean, if you don't think what happened in this trade was caused by politicians and policies and all that work left for no reason, then I can't help you there. Okay, so it's going to come up once in a while. I'll give you my opinion, but it's just more about the policy than it is about the politicians. But I know there's a lot of strong feelings on both sides there, but we stay away from that. But it's funny. Back to apprenticeships. Back to fighting on the internet. There was a day when social media didn't even exist, right? I mean, the internet wasn't even around that long ago, really. So how did we fill our spare hours? Well, if you were an apprentice or you're a tool and die maker or a machinist, you worked a lot of hours, right? You worked a lot. And if you're an apprentice like me, we stayed after work and built our own tools. And let's see, I think I've got a fun picture there to show. Somebody asked me about these the other day. There's a couple sign boards I built, 5-inch and a 10-inch, because of the size work I did at Hanson's. A 10-inch sign bar came in handy. I've never met anybody else that has a 10-inch sign bar, but those are all hardened, and and then I wanted to engrave them. I always thought the coolest machine you could learn how to run would be a pantograph. You just looked like a tool maker when you ran a pantograph. So I went to the owner. I said, I'd like to learn how to run the pantograph. And he brushed me off pretty quickly. He said, that's for the mold makers. So, I was never be outdone there or pushed away. And I talked to a tool maker into staying after work with me and teaching me how to run the pantograph. And that's what I did. I engraved my tools that I built. So, yeah, that's what I did in my spare time. Does that make me a nerd? Yeah, probably did, right? But I was busy. I didn't come home and spend a lot of time arguing about politics, right? There's so much to learn, and I learned more on my own after work, as much at least after work as I did during the day. You had to figure stuff out on your own. So, I stayed after work and learned how to engrave this stuff, and I still think people, the theory is people aren't using their minds all day at work, and they sit there and they're doing the computer work, and I use a computer too. I'm not this old guy, get off my lawn, get rid of your fancy newfangled computers, but I think people are bored. Because there's something that comes with working every day and building really cool precision stuff. Well, at the end of the day, you're ready to come home and, relax or go play golf or hang out with your kids. And, now we come home and we pick these nonsensical, ridiculous fights on the internet. So, during my apprenticeship, a big reward was to get home from night school at 10:15 p.m. and maybe catch Johnny Carson. And if you were my age, you remember at 12:30, the national anthem played and we got the blank screen. That was it. Go to bed. If you were really bored, you couldn't sleep, you read a book. Imagine that. So rinse and repeat, right? You learn a trade, you make some really good money. Well, I firmly believe that one of the offsets of losing these great manufacturing jobs is people just aren't fulfilled as much at jobs. And, this is a humorous statement, but it kind of makes sense. Sometimes idle hands are the devil's workshop, right? You get in trouble when you don't have enough to do. And again, building stuff all day, precision work, pretty much takes a lot of that out if you're ready to come home and relax. So there seems to be this giant problem with getting kids into this trade. So I have a lot of strong feelings on this. So I'm not going to be shy about it. Let's make it perfectly clear. I was an apprentice, and my own tool and die company was certified when I had my shop by the PA Department of Labor to train and certify these apprentices. So I'm pretty good authority on this, right? How much were apprenticeships or your papers worth? We call them having your papers. I had a guy named Al, and I won't give his last name, but he had worked at Anson's back in the day, and because he didn't finish up one thing, they kept him a nickel short and never gave him his papers. And he always, he was not happy about that. Well, Al worked for me a couple of years, and I could tell he knew what he was doing. So, the state of Pennsylvania trusted me enough. I wrote and gave this guy the credit for those remaining hours. And on our Christmas party one year, I gave Al his journeyman papers. And I'll never forget the look on his face, right? I mean, that's how important those papers were, and I still have the my apprenticeship or my journeyman paper framed, my certificate from the state of Pennsylvania on the wall. I'm very proud of that 4-year degree I got, right? So again, apprenticeships, big hot buzzword right now, but why aren't the kids doing it? Well, first of all, I think they're getting brainwashed a little bit, right? You got to go to college. You just got to go to college, and then of course you got to take on all that debt. But the second problem is I really think a lot of the employers need to step up to the plate, and here's how they can do that. It's really not that hard, right? So here's how I went through my apprenticeship, and let's take a look at this a minute. Like I said, I got a lot of stuff to go through tonight. So there's my the book of secrets, right? That's my book for my apprenticeship, and it's just full of information, right? All my hours and everything. But check this out. There's the contract I signed in 1980. There's my signature on the top, and there's Mr. Anderson's there. That's my 4-year contract, and it was binding for us. We trusted each other, and there's all the hours I was going to spend on each machine. My basic 3,000 hours, and my advanced 5,000 hours, and then finally there's all my rates. Every 6 months, my rate would go up, right? And you can see I've been scratching in over the years. Every time we get a 2% cost of living raise, you can see a little math at the top there. I'd figured it out. I was going to make $314.08 a week if I had 8 hours overtime. So that was a contract. So, I knew what I would be making for the next 4 years in 6-month increments as long as I did what they asked, went to night school, passed the classes, and bought the tools they asked me to ask. But I had a plan. As a young man, I had this beautiful plan laid out in front of me. 19 years old, right? They did what they said they were going to do. They didn't delay my reviews or my raises one time in 4 years. They always did what they said they were going to do. So, I get it. I think a lot of employers are like, yeah, but I'm going to train this kid for 4 years. What if he leaves? He leaves. That's the way it goes. That's the way it went. Because you should have more than one apprentice, number one. And number two, if there's enough industry going around, you'll pick up somebody else's apprentice. It's not a bad thing, right? And in the meantime, you're getting some cheap labor. If you own a shop, you know what direct labor rate is, and those guys knock your direct labor rate down. So there's that. But, the fact of life, the apprentices do move on sometimes after the apprenticeship is complete. And it's kind of your job to keep them, right? I mean, really. It's very funny. When I finished my apprenticeship, I was so proud of it and all excited. And I went and met with the owner. So what's the big plan? He says, we're putting you on nights for the year. I was gone in 3 months. I was ready to start building molds, right? So they kind of blew it. But it is a contract, and that's the deal. Both sides need to keep their side of that agreement, but it always seems to fall on the apprentice more to keep his or her side of the agreement and hope the employer keeps theirs. It's not that hard. This whole apprenticeship thing's been going on for a long time, 250 years. America's most famous apprentice was Ben Franklin, and he literally had to run away from home because his brother wouldn't let him out of his apprenticeship, right? And it worked out good for Ben, but, I'll end with this. Employers need to stop whining about the lack of kids who want to get into this trade and offer them a 4-year degree, just like the one I got. So what do you think of that? We're going to turn on the webcam here, say hello to everybody. Oh, like I said, a lot of technical stuff here tonight, but we will get to it in a second here. Let's see here. There we go. Good evening. Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, and hope that beach picture wasn't too disturbing for you guys, but that's how I roll at the beach. It's just the way it goes. So, had a fun week here. It was a busy week, moving Working Hands Radio kind of over to its own page. A lot of reminders out there. We had some good contests going on. Not really contests, but I asked you guys to post pictures, and let's see what we did this week, and it was awesome. I started off with
Working Hands
we don't want
Radio.
that. Wrong one. There we go. I started off with this one. I just posted this picture of this Greist micro height gauge, and I said, "What's the coolest tool in your box?" And if you didn't make the list, don't get your feelings hurt here. I have to insert each one of these as a separate scene. You don't need to know all that, but I did the best I could, and I looked at a lot of the ones I thought were pretty cool. This is a nice squaring block somebody made. You can always tell the mold makers, the tool makers, their stuff's always ground, and you took the time to put the red. I did the same thing I do. I do blue usually, but it's got the paint in there that just dolls it up, gives it that nice tool room look. What else? What's next here? You know what that is? Everybody had to guess at that. That is an ancient Starrett tachometer. So there you go. Pretty scary. This guy, this is his sign bar he made attached to a plate, right? So, how do I want to say this? A grinding vise with a sign plate on it. And he made that at tech school. He said, I got an A on it. And, you know, probably if it's hard, probably just a little 800 paper on your surface plate and a little rust remover, you'd probably be good to go there. Pretty cool. This guy said, which one? Which tool do you want me to pick? Well, that's a pretty neat drawer, isn't it? And there's some nice tools in that drawer. Flange mics, like the green faces on some of these tools, on the verniers, the calipers. ID mics of some sort. I can't remember the name of those. I'm sorry. I know I'm the tool and die guy. Step mics. Nice set of tools there. Oh, this is a nice little sign bar. Again, the personal touches. This is actually a wheel dresser with a sign bar on it for dressing angles on your grinding wheels. And he took the time to put these ball indents in there and polish them all up. Very, very nice piece indeed. And what do we have here? Homemade B-blocks. Very nice. And I love the touch with the brass screws at the top. The knobs is awesome. And let's see here. This is some sort of a hammer. And I think he put a picture of a hammer next to it, or put a hammer next to it so we'd know. I'm not quite sure what you use that for, but that's a unique tool. I could not deny that. Let's see, one more. One more. Oh, what do you use those for? I wouldn't have known. I think I've seen these before, but those are for measuring gear teeth. And yeah, I would think you'd have to be pretty good to know what you're doing with those. I love the old velvet case. Pretty nice stuff there. Love it. Love it. So let's see here. Back to the program. So again, let's see. Tonight we're going to do a little contest here. And I've got this pretty cool thing. We've got a really cool guy that listens to this program. And his name is John Shirk. And he gave me this to give away. Ended up with a couple of them. Now, John owns a place called Indicare Precision Gauge Repair in Dayton. And John's like 72. And he got into this because the guy he apprenticed under was a jeweler also. So John's had this gauge repair place for, I believe 1986. So he's been there a while. And it's such a nice job. You know, he's not on his feet a lot, so he's 72 and still enjoying life, right? Beautiful. So he sent me this Mic Master. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to send this Mic Master. It'll, I don't have a phone bank here, so it'll probably be the first call. But hold on, it's got to be the first call. I need a story tonight. I don't need you to just be the first call, right? This isn't the cash call on the radio, okay? So what I'm looking for is a story about the trade. I don't need a bedtime story. I don't need a half an hour story. But a little bit about maybe you're a little bit older, but you probably don't need this. Maybe you're younger, just love the trade, and maybe you want to talk about your apprenticeship. And if you love these classic tools, we'll take that phone call. 800-870-1648. So the phone line, they are open and ready for that call. So if you got a good story and we like it, you're going to get this mailed to you tomorrow morning. And I inspected this myself at work. It's a pretty cool deal there. I really think you're going to really enjoy having that. So that's that. So let's talk a little bit too about the apprentice programs. And I don't know. We have one apprentice at work, and he's come leaps and bounds, really improved. He's about 2 years into it, and he's doing a great job at work. And it's been interesting to watch him piece the trade together. From going strictly as a machinist that was just kind of a button pusher, right? Wasn't sure what he wanted to do, and then he got into the apprenticeship and night school, and it's a little different now than when I took the apprenticeship. It was all about back then it was 4 years, 8,000 hours, and now it's a little bit more competency based, and it's interesting to watch, because you can pass some tests out, you can test out of stuff. I like that. But certain things, like when the project's done, it's got to pass, and everything's got to be perfect. Well, some of these machines at the place the tech school can't do the work they want. If he's off 1,000s and the rest of the dimensions are right, I think they should grade the stuff. I mean, it's got to be at least a C, or you have to remake it. But it's either right or wrong. In fact, the one thing he built had a 1-inch internal diameter internal thread, and the gauge he checked it with at work or at school said it was fine. We brought it to work to inspect it, and they failed it because the gauge didn't fit. So I said, you guys are out of your mind. He did it with the gauge he was given at school. You can't flunk this part, right? This kid will never get this part done. So it's done. So apprenticeships have changed over the years, without a doubt. So again, we've got this pretty cool mic master to give away. And sometimes I sit here and I say, I wonder if the phone line's working. Then I start getting panicked because the 800 number isn't ringing off the hook. And I know a lot of guys tonight said, I want that thing, or how do I find one if I don't get the call in? So let me take a minute here and just check the social media here. Hey, Gary Bolt is watching. Gary Bolt, Fairview. What else we got? All right. Valerie Weaver. Hi, Valerie. And hi, Sage from Texas. Hello, Dan Geary. Dan Geary, the legend of radio in Erie, Pennsylvania, is watching this program. And Dan, you're making me nervous. Please just go away. No, you're not. Dan's a great guy. One of the deans of Erie Broadcasting. We used to have a guy in town named the Morning Mayor, Frank Martin, and I think Dan's kind of taken that mantle from him. So catch Dan on, I'll look up the Lecom radio in here in Erie, and I believe they're on the internet too, oldies. So again, this is program 17, Working Hands Radio, and the reason we're here tonight is to talk about working with your hands, right? And there's nothing else I don't think like this. And the reason I say that is I've been saying that for 17 weeks, and I know you guys, if there was something else like this, I would have heard about it. I will say, the people who tune in, the people who listen, and the reality is a lot of guys, I got messages from people today, they're still at work, and some of the guys on the West Coast, they can't catch this program until they get home. And so if they work till 4 and we get home at 5, we're done at 8 pretty much. So they watch the recording. So despite who might be watching now, this program usually gets by the end of the week well over 1,000 views each week, because Facebook is a great format for me to just keep this up online as long as I want, or I guess as long as Facebook's in existence. I don't think they're going anywhere. So let's see. We'll check the social media one more time. Miles Gibson, apprentice here, Ottawa, Ohio. And, let's see. She wants to make sure, Heidi wants to make sure we have the phone number. Well, that's a good point. 800-870-1648. Thank you for that reminder. I need to do that more often. I gotta just put a big thing. I don't always like to keep the webcam on because it's me. And I get sick of looking at myself. So, and plus I can take a drink of water or something. So 800-870-1648. That's the 800 number. I apologize if people are freaking out because they couldn't find the 800 number. I probably need to put that on the logo when I put that up there. So, again, what else do we have here? One more time. Hey, John in Dayton, Ohio. Bill. Miles. Yep. Okay, there we go. So that is complete. So we're checking on the social media. We've got the apprenticeship thing all straightened out. I think the employers could step up to the plate and do something about that. But I guess we'll take just a minute here. And, every week, sometimes I need a break, get a glass of water here or something. But we're doing pretty good tonight. One of my sponsors here, Industrial Sales. And really have to say thanks, right? Most manufacturers... I'm sure somebody's going to call during the middle of this commercial or this promo piece, but that's okay. But most manufacturers, they don't get advertising, right? They don't advertise very much, and they don't know where to advertise. I mean, most of the things you'll see in magazines or online are for suppliers. But if you own a tool shop, a mold shop, a machine shop, that I get it. Unless you're going to a trade show or something, that might work for you. But ISM, Industrial Sales and Manufacturing, they're right here in Erie, Pennsylvania, and just a company that's grown and grown and grown over the years. And, I really do appreciate that because they believe in what I'm doing here. And they step up and help me with this program. And it's really says a lot about the family, that they do this. Talk about a great facility. And just like any shop, they started small. And they bought that building, then they bought the building across the street, and in 2003 or whatever, they bought the building we're in now, 86,000 square feet. So well over probably 150,000 square feet of manufacturing. And, really great facility. A lot of services offered under one roof. You got the CNC machining. I know a lot of people do that, milling and turning. But got the welding and the robotic welding, and then we do full line assemblies, right? Powder coating. I mean, a lot of times in projects we get don't even have to leave the shop. If we can't get a good vendor in line, they just go out and buy the stuff and do it ourselves. So ISO 9002 certified, that's a lot these days to go through that. We just went through an audit, passed it with flying colors. But, we've lost a ton of shops over the years, and these guys have made it. And there's a picture I took the other day of just one of the bays in our shop there. In the foreground, that is a Mazak laser machine. And then we've got the plasma burner right next to it. And in the background, you can see a flexible machining center. You can't see it on the other side. There's even a bigger flexible machining center. A lot of stuff going on. So, again, these guys have made it since 1967, and we've lost a lot of shops, and they've kept it going. So good for them. So ISM and Charlie and the Mikowski family, if you're listening tonight, God bless you guys. Thanks for helping me out here. Thanks for your goodwill and patronage of Working Hands Radio. And, again, you can visit them at ismerie.com. All right, so I'm a little surprised tonight here. Let's go back here. All right, on the chopping block. Let's go back to this. What do we have here? The Mic Master. Now, we always have to explain this. Because you can see me on this broadcast doesn't mean we'll see you. All right? Well, you'll just have a phone call, and we'll just ask you for your first name and where you're from. And all we want to do tonight is to get a good story from somebody who maybe went through a great apprenticeship or has a feeling about the apprenticeships we talked about tonight. And, what do you think? Do you think there's a shortage for a good reason? Do you think there's a thing they could do to maybe bring them back? Or maybe we've lost the trade? I stopped getting phone calls when I had my own shop about 2001. I used to get a phone call a week. Then I used to get a phone call a month from kids wanting to get into an apprenticeship. By 2002, I was getting one a year. So I knew that I started ringing the alarm bells back then because kids were scared to get into manufacturing. They were watching their fathers and their uncles get laid off or their shops closing, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them for that. And but again, what I always say, college isn't for everybody. And sometimes college might be really great after you work on the floor for a couple of years and figure out what you want to do with your life and get acclimated to mechanical things and build stuff and say, you know what, I'd like to be an engineer. I'd like to be a designer. You'll be so far ahead of the kids when you go into that class. Yeah, you'll be 2 years behind, but does it really matter? I mean, if you're, it doesn't. So, that's my feeling is that, I think kids could just wait, Let's see here. Chip Horn. Howdy from Kyle, Indiana. Love the show. Well, thank you, Chip. And Mr. James Sardellis Dallas is watching. Okay, Jimmy, good to see you here. All right, so moving right along here. So on the first call of the night, the Mic Master. And I took this to work today. And this is a really nice piece. It's all hardened and ground. It looks like it's got a little touch of flash chrome on it. And those diameters, these are actually diameters that you see listed there. This thing has been ground between centers, and everything you see there has a slight curve to it. And then you can see somebody took the time that every one of those corners is relieved, and every one of those dimensions is right on the money. So, again, that's a gift from John Shirk at Indicare. So, let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of things, other things we've got going on here. One of the things I did a couple of years ago, and back to the apprenticeships, back to the trade, is I get calls all the time from people that don't know what to do with their father's tools. Father passes away, and they're overwhelmed, right? They've got this pile of stuff in the garage that they don't know what to do with. And I'm going to put the phone number back up here. Hold on just a second here. There we go. So they end up with this pile of stuff of Dad or Uncle Jim's tools. And they look up that stuff, and they'll find me online, the Tool and Die Guy, and they'll send me an email. Well, the first thing I always do is I ask them for some photos. And truth be told, a lot of guys, their stuff's kind of old. And and I don't need screwdrivers. I don't need old drills. But what we do is at the Tool and Die Guy. If you go over there, toolanddieguy.com, there's a button that says the Family Legacy Project. And what I do with those tools is I go through them, and I make sure they end up in good homes. And I get letters from people. I show them what's available. The last set of tools I gave was a gentleman up in Buffalo, New York, a couple hours from here. He had passed away after working at GM for 34 years, I believe, and his son was so happy to have a home for his father's tools. And those tools went all over America. They really did. It was a pretty cool deal. The news showed up here. So if you're interested in, you want to spread the word about that, this guy was close enough where he just brought everything. And, like I said, the old drills and taps, they just need to go. I mean, I'm not going to mail those around the world, right? But, boy, there were some nice micrometer sets and some indicators. And, again, one of those tools went to Australia. It was a beautiful dial indicator, I believe, that some lucky guy in Australia got. So we ship them all over the U.S. and the world. The only thing I ask, because I do this to help one generation pass these tools down to another generation, the giant tool exchange from one generation of craftsmen to the new generation of craftsmen. But I don't pay for the shipping, right? So all I ask is they pay for the shipping. And most of the stuff's small hand tools, so it's not that much. The bill to Australia wasn't that cheap, but it's a really, really fun project. So spread the word about that. It's a nice way for me to give back, and it's a nice way. The best part is these people feel like somebody got their stuff, their dad's stuff that he worked with for decades, that will use it and appreciate it. And we don't charge for that. I don't charge these people except for to ship it. But check it out, the Family Legacy Project over at the Tool and Die Guy. So again, the number here, 800-870-1648. On the subject line tonight was the apprenticeships. It was funny. I think I mentioned in last week's program, one of the things an apprenticeship teaches a young man is how to grow up in the shop and not be a tool. You'll learn how to use tools, not be a tool, right? And, a lot of kids, I could have been guilty of it, maybe, walk into a shop and think they're kind of smart, and they've got it going on, and the trade has a way of humbling you pretty quickly. And when it humbles you, when you screw something up and you have to take that part to a lead mold maker and say, this isn't right, and the look on their face. Now I can honestly tell you, during that time, those 4 years, I never had one time anybody ever freak out at me, and that says a lot about mold makers and tool makers. So there's a temperament there because the guys are smart guys. It says a lot about how they look at the trade and how they mentor people. But I can tell you, if you were a mouthy brat, you weren't going to last long. They wouldn't show you anything, or they'd just run you out of the shop one way or another. But if you learn to suck it up and be a respectful human being, which is one of the things we kind of try to go with here on Working Hands Radio, is when I teach an apprentice things, that's one of the things I try to teach them, is how to behave correctly in the shop. Now you might say, "Hey Phil, I work with you. When was somebody going to teach you how to behave correctly in the shop?" That's very funny. But and I teach them how to wear an apron. The only two people besides me at ISM that wear an apron are my two apprentices that I train, because you have a scale in one pocket, you have a pen ready to go, and your clothes stay clean. Pretty cool, right? Simple stuff. But I walked into after once one apprentice that drove me nuts for a while. He drove me absolutely crazy. Good kid, but he needed to slow down a little bit, and with the attitude. But we walked into a shop meeting one day, and I was just a little late. Let's put it this way: I wasn't late, but I wasn't early enough to get a seat. And he stood up and he just motioned me over and gave me his chair. Oh, that's how you train an apprentice, right? Respect. So you know what? We're going to take a quick commercial break here. Let's see. We got about 25 minutes left here. So let's see here. I already did that. Talked a little bit about ISM, but let's do a little bit. Maybe I should talk about the Tool and Die Guy. You guys love the Tool and Die Guy, right? Because I got a lot of stuff over there on that website, and that'll give me a chance to catch my breath here, and we'll come back with a nice montage of all your guys' workbenches that I put together a couple weeks ago. And I've just got to find, do I have? Yes, I do. Okay, we'll be back in just a minute. Do you like building things? Are you new to manufacturing and don't even know where to start? Or maybe you just want to learn about machining and manufacturing as a hobby? I'm Phil Kerner, and I can tell you from experience that the best way to learn a trade is from an expert with a solid body of work under his or her belt to show you the way. During the past 40 years, I served my apprenticeship, worked as a lead mold maker, ran my own tool and die shops, a plastic shop, and have also worked as a designer and a machinist. If you're hungry to learn the tips, tricks, and techniques in manufacturing that have taken me 5 decades to put together, I'd invite you to check out thetoolandieguy.com, where I just posted my 340th lesson on machining and manufacturing. Folks, this is real manufacturing. This is the stuff I do every day to be an asset to my company. And once you're an asset, it's tough for them to let you go. 43 years in the trade, 0 layoffs. Check it out. Special discount for the next 48 hours, thetoolandieguy.com.
Working Hands Radio.
And there you have it. You know, that was about a month ago, and I posted a picture of my work area, and I said, hey, guys, let's put some pictures up there. And, you know, I love it. A little bit of everything there. You know, the big Kennedy box you see there, and, you know, some really cool, looks like, I think, a few smaller garage shops. There's a big injection mold getting ready to go there, and boy, you know, guys love their tools. Look at that. That is quite a toolbox there. And, you know, workbench, that is why we're here. And, you know, it takes a certain guy. If you're listening to this program tonight, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You look at these pictures, and they're just fun to look at, right? It's fun to see how other people work. And, you know, it's interesting. I always keep my workbench as neat as I can, because I always like to think, what would somebody, like from my radio program, think if they walked by and I wasn't there, and they said, oh, that's where Phil Kerner works, and it was, you know, a rat's nest. You know, I like my work area to look like a professional does work there. Do I make a mess sometimes? You bet. You know, sometimes it gets crazy, and there's a lot of stuff flying around, and got to get something done right away, and yeah, but as soon as that mess, you know, if that project's done, we clean it right up. And before we go home at night, that bench is clean, and the floor is clean, because that's just the way we were trained, right? You can't do precision work in a place that just is a mess, right? So we got to get the webcam back up here. All right. So I got a question here from Chip. What about college for tool and die versus apprenticeship? Well, I don't think you can go to college for tool and die making, Chip. You know, there's some great programs here at the local Penn State branch in Erie called Barron College, and they've got more of a, the name escapes me here, but it's a program where you'll actually get some hands-on machining time along with your engineering program, so you kind of walk out with a nice skill set there. I think that's it might be a 2-year associate's degree. I'll find more information out about that, but they don't teach, as far as I know, tool and die in college, and that would be an interesting course offering. That would be a very interesting course offering. You know, what did I learn this week? You know, I did learn something this week. You know, there's this page on Facebook which shall go nameless, and if you guys figure it out, I don't have a problem with them. I just can't figure this page out, and it's they got a lot of members over there. So I joined this. It's related to our trade, right? And I didn't say anything when I joined, and I'm glad I didn't. Because when I saw people say, hey, thanks for letting me join the group, guys, everybody, like, kills you. They, like, show pictures of their genitals and make fun of your mother. So I don't know if that's a crazy initial ritual over there at that page. So if you know about that page and you know what page I'm talking about, you can inbox me and let me know. Yeah, they're all fun. That's just what they do, but very strange indeed what's going on over there at that page. So again, the phone number here, guys. Oh, finally. Oh my God. It's probably my wife. All right. You're on Working Hands Radio. This is Phil Kerner. Hello?
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Good. Who's this?
This is Chip. Yeah,
Chip.
I was just making some comments on Facebook there.
Yes, sir. And appreciate
you were talking about the no college for tool and die.
Yep, but as far as I know.
And well, I'm just going. I went to college at Vincennes University for tool and die.
Okay.
They called it kind of a tool and die / precision manufacturing.
Wow.
I just want to make you aware. I mean, I guess I can't say I know everything. I do also believe in the apprenticeship, knowing a lot of things you learn, tricks of trades from the old guys, you know.
So what was the name of it?
Yeah, we built 3 production dies and 3 molds in a 2-year apprenticeship. Not apprenticeship, a 2-year college degree. So
you have an associate's degree in what would it be called?
It's called precision manufacturing.
And then do you go into an apprenticeship after that, or do you or
you can?
Okay.
I didn't.
All right.
You can go into an apprenticeship depending on if you get employed. And I honestly didn't do it, but from what I was told, you only had to do the last 2 years of the apprenticeship if you did that.
That makes sense. So you went right from college into a career in tool and die making then?
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
And I will say Vincennes was an excellent school for it. There's a lot of very sharp guys there, old timers, I would say, that teach you the tricks. Everything's done manually, bridge ports. There is some CNC. Just kind of it gives you a good, well-rounded area about everything.
Well, let's see. Now, how many years ago would you have gone through that program?
That was in 2012.
Okay, so it's fairly recent. So it should. And where is this at?
It's in Vincennes, Indiana.
Indiana. Well, you can post. You can figure
that program's been going on for quite a long time. I actually.
That's awesome.
There was an old timer that taught me a lot of things that he actually graduated in 1968 from Vincennes for it.
And how many kids would go through that program at one time?
There was usually about 20 of us.
About 20.
There's a first year and then a second year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, and I assumed that because of you were already going to college, was that full-time?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So
you get about 5 to 6 hours in the shop a day.
Wow. Plus some good engineering classes and math classes, no doubt, right?
Oh yeah, yep,
okay.
Yep. And you go do drafting and the mechanical drafting and anything that's somewhat related to the trade.
Drafting or AutoCAD?
You did both.
Good.
We actually did Mastercam,
mm-hmm.
But it's a CAD cam. It's close to AutoCAD.
All right. So
I actually furthered my degree at Purdue for
nice.
Mechanical engineering, and we did a lot of AutoCAD. But
okay.
for Vincennes, you did a lot of Mastercam, CAD cam stuff, and then we did actual mechanical drafting. Kind of the old school way. But I'm a firm believer in learning the old school first.
It doesn't hurt. I broadcast this program from my old drafting table. So
that's awesome.
I did a lot of drawings on this. I used to design die casting dies and molds. So what did you end up doing? What trade did you get into? Machining, die making? What are you doing now?
Well, I did start in machining, and then I went to a little job shop. I did a lot of die repair, die making, and then fixture making.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of I had a couple career opportunities outside of tool and die that I do now. I worked for an industrial crane overhead crane company, but I missed the trade a lot, and I have since bought machines for my garage and looking at possibly doing my own little job shop.
Now, in case I missed something, why did you leave the trade? Did I miss something?
No, I left the trade just for it was a money thing. The money, we got to support the family insurance.
Right.
The little job shop I had, I didn't have benefits from.
Right.
And it came up, and I just took the opportunity.
Well, that is an issue. That is an issue trying to keep the money flowing with manufacturing is a tough business now. these guys
Yep.
are competing against globally, and I think a lot of companies survive because they were able to do short turnarounds because people forget to
Right.
get parts made, and all of a sudden you're down the street. But that's a feast or famine deal. It costs so much money to start a shop, and to hire good people costs a lot of money, and then you add the benefits on. I always say, if I don't have any problem with my shop owner having a brand new Cadillac out front, as long as that guy's making money, we're good to go, right?
Yes, right. I totally agree.
Yep. So, well, that's interesting. So, do you still have all your tools?
Yes, I do. Actually, one of the pictures that you put up there is one of my toolboxes. It's the oak and or not oak. I'm sorry, walnut and cherry.
Okay.
The one that says horn across the top.
That's you. I forgot about that. Okay, that makes sense. Now, did you build that?
Yes.
Man.
Yep. When I went to college, I kind of grew up a little poor. I couldn't afford a Kennedy toolbox. I couldn't afford a Gerstner because I really wanted a Gerstner. So we actually had that wood laying around, which actually is a little bit kind of close to my heart. The walnut wood that it's made out of and the cherry wood that was made out of were actually trees in the front yard of my grandparents' house. And they got since cut up, and they've been sitting forever, and I decided I was going to make something out of it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's an amazing piece of work. Where do you keep that thing at now? Hopefully somewhere safe.
It's in my temperature-controlled garage,
There you
right
go.
next to my milling machine.
Yeah, you
right
can't-
next to my
can't-
switchboard. So,
Can't leave those things in a wet garage or a basement or any dampness. It's just
No.
it ages.
No, I've been, I've recently kind of checked out your site, and I'm kind of a tool junkie like you are,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the old stuff. So I always, if I find it, I kind of hoard it, and
Well,
if I have a
and
couple
it's so
extras, I'll get rid of them.
it's so much fun because I don't need a lot of tools anymore. I just really don't. But
Sure.
I'm still attracted to cool tools that maybe are still usable that I'll use, and I seem to really like the tools from the 50s and 60s. They're just really nice stuff. So, well, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a big Lufkin fan.
My dad was a big Lufkin guy, and a lot of the tools I inherited from him say Lufkin on them. In fact, I've got a set of telescoping gauges that actually go smaller in diameter. They go down to 5/16 from Lufkin. So really nice stuff.
Yep.
Well, sir, because you are kind of, I don't know if I'll get any more calls. It was funny. One week I had a little trouble getting people to call in, and as soon as one person called in, then I went on another 20 minutes past 8 o'clock, which was fine. But sometimes the floodgates open. But since you enjoy collecting tools, you're going to get the Mic Master. And
you are awesome, dude.
Yeah, you're going to love this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like I said, you'll really like this. So what you need to do is after we hang up, just email me. It's workinghandsradio@gmail.com.
I will do that, sir. I appreciate
Just
it.
remind me who you are, and I need your address, and we'll get this out tomorrow morning.
Hey, you're the man.
I am now. All right, thanks for calling in. All right.
All right.
Have a good
Phil.
night.
Thanks for doing it.
Bye-bye.
Mm.
See, it's painless. It's painless. I make it easy. The trick to being a good conversationalist is just letting other people talk. So it's fun to hear those stories, and it's always interesting. I see John Shirk did comment on Facebook. Check out the Step 2 program at Dayton Sinclair Community College. Great program. Well, John Shirk, I will check that out. All right, getting as we move forward here, again, phone lines are. I took the phone line down. That's going to be getting smart here to take that down when I'm on the phone. So that maybe we'll stop that because we're not going to do 2 phone calls at once. Barely to handle the one. So again, we'll be here for a little bit yet. Number 800-870-1648. That was a great story about education and apprenticeships from Chris. Awesome. Thank you for the call, and you're going to be a happy camper with that Mic Master tomorrow. And again, that was a gift from John Shirk. John, I know he's listening. It all goes around. We pass all the love around, because if you're a tool maker and if you've ever done precision work, you love those tools, and this is a good one. He's going to be a happy camper. It's going to be like Christmas up there. In fact, John sent me an indicator he repaired for me. My old Alina indicator was my father's. And yesterday, I came home and my Alina indicator was sitting there, and this Mike Master was sitting there. It was like Christmas at the Kerner House in July. You've heard the term Christmas in July. It was. And it's still funny, after all these years, how excited I get about tools. And I just like that old stuff was built so beautifully. The fact that it's still... Now, I'm not sure how old the Mike Masters are. John's still on. If you want to comment, John, be interesting to see what the vintage of those are, because I don't know. They look like they were kind of cool, but the package that came in looks very new. So, all right. Again, so the phone lines are open if you still want to check in tonight. 800-870-1648. Got some pretty cool hats here to give away. So let's see what we got here. Industrial sales and manufacturing. This is actually navy blue. It's a nice soft cap. So I think we can throw in one more cap tonight if I don't harpoon myself on my microphone stand there. So again, 800-870-1648 is that number. So, hey, a little housekeeping tonight. Let's see here. It's interesting. When we started this program back on, I believe it was January 9th, and we always, especially when we started, we were at the radio station, right? And we pay for that airtime. And, luckily back then I had some sponsors who, kind of saw the need to be involved in something in manufacturing, because Erie, Pennsylvania used to be just a great, great manufacturing town. Well, just like any other Rust Belt town, it's not like it used to be. And I never want to be accused of that old guy that just talks about the good old days. Now, it's okay, though. I'm not going to not talk about the good old days when, like everybody had great jobs and everybody had cars and everybody had houses, and it wasn't so bad, okay? And but they had great skills. And I always believed, and I think I was right, if I got good at working with my hands, I'd always have a job. I might not make $1 million, but if I ever lost my job or got out of the trade, I could always get back into it, because if you can build stuff, people will hire you if you're good, right? So we take just a minute every week to make sure you just hear a couple minutes about the folks who invest in the program. And, the question is that advertising? Well, the reality is kind of. But most guys, as we were talking earlier, most shops don't advertise because they don't know where to advertise. And most people who are looking to get work done don't look in a magazine or online because they need a part machined, right? So it doesn't really work out. So we kind of talk about this as more of a support and patronage here. That's what the deal is here, goodwill. So I believe, as I said earlier, there's really nothing else like this out on the internet. There's nothing close to what we're doing here with the live calls. We're only in our 17th week. We're just getting started here, really, building an audience. And this week, took a big gamble and moved everything over to the Working Hands radio page, which is where it belongs, though. I'm firmly convinced it belongs there. And but I know there's nothing else like this, like I said earlier, because I've been saying this for 17 weeks now, and nobody's proven me wrong. And I know the people on this page, if they could prove me wrong about a program like this, they would. Okay. So I just want to let you know tonight, if you do own a shop and you'd like to get your name out there to some folks, or maybe at least swimming in the same stream, you never know. I sincerely believe someday, because these programs stay up there forever, somebody's going to tune in, and I know ISM's going to get a couple jobs to quote. They might have already done that, but for what we ask for the patronage here, it's very reasonable. So if you'd like to get your name out there to some folks and some goodwill, please consider supporting the program. We're extremely reasonable here. And if you don't have a shop and you'd just like to support this program, you can pitch in, because many hands make light work. The truth is, I've been self-funding this for many weeks, and I can't do this forever. There are costs involved. So I need 5 of my shop owner friends out there to take on a reasonably priced sponsorship. We go in 10-week increments here, and it's $50 a week, okay? $50. You'll get your name out there, and you'll look like a saint among the men out there, but because people remember those names, and they think, well, that's really cool that shop took the time to support this program. And we're just getting started here. I really believe in this. So I've got a link here, and if you'd like to support the program, and everything's over there, just go to Tool and Die Guy, and I'll leave this up here for a minute. It just says support Working Hands Radio, and I'll probably post this afterwards. You can click on it, but if you want to jot that down, there's several donation levels. I call them apprentice, machinist, mold maker. They just move up and up. The smallest donation is $10, and there's a sponsorship one there. If you want to go the full enchilada, We'll record your commercial. We'll bring you on the air. We'll interview you. You can tell us all about your wonderful business or your shop, and I'll write the commercial for you. Or if you'd like to record your own and send it in, I'll do that too. But most guys don't want to do that. So be glad to help you out there. Please send us pictures in of your facility. While we're talking about you, I'll post those pictures. It's a really cool avenue for you to get your word out there, and maybe spread some goodwill throughout the trade, because we like that goodwill, right? This trade could use some goodwill. So there you go, thetoolandieguy.com, and it says support Working Hands Radio. It's just dashes in between support Working Hands Radio. You can see that though. So kind of finish it up here tonight, and been a good night, and I had to kind of carry this on my own, which is fine. And I knew we might be down a little bit tonight because of the fact that we did not have we had moved the program over, and that's okay. We moved the program over for a reason, as I said earlier. If you're just tuning in, that people are starting to search for Working Hands Radio, and there's everything on this program is at the Tool and Die Guy, but the lead generation on Google is Working Hands Radio Facebook. So that tells me this is where people are going to eventually find me more than the Tool and Die Guy Facebook. It's just one step removed, right? So with that being said, I do want to say, thanks so much for tuning in, and your calls and your comments here mean everything to me. That's why we do this, right? We're here to tell your stories, not mine. My story's been out there for a long time. That's the reason I started the Tool and Die Guy, was to get this knowledge I had amassed for over years and decades in the trade to make sure it got passed on. If you ever want to go back and see any of the programs, of course they're all on Facebook, but they're all in order and easy to find over at thetoolanddieguy.com, and just click on the button Working Hands Radio. You'll have access to all the programs, plus a downloadable audio of each program. And again, thanks to ISM for helping us out with the program. And of course, as I always say, we produce this program ourselves for the love of working with your hands. Because you know what? Building stuff is cool. And finally, I'm also known as the Tool and Die Guy. And I just recorded 2 more lessons yesterday. Really cool, good lessons over at thetoolanddieguy.com. And I always, after every program, I run a little sale there. So if you want to save $20 tonight for 342 lessons on setups, tool and die making, cutter grinding, EDM, there's a lot there. Check that out. So we'll be right back here next week at 7 p.m. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to find us tonight and to tune in. And we'll end with one of my favorite sayings of the trade. A man who works with his hands is a laborer. A man who works with his hands and his brain is a craftsman. But a man who works with his hands and his brain and his heart is an artist. So that's it from Erie, Pennsylvania. Until next week, keep the faith. I'm Phil Kerner for Working Hands Radio. Have a great night.